Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to one of our little In Conversation series. I'm delighted today to be joined by Marcus Brown of the Great Pitch Company. Hello, Marcus. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Paul. Thank you for inviting me along. Delighted to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to have a good chat.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So, Marcus, we met, oh gosh, a couple of weeks ago now at an event and got talking. And you've got an absolutely fascinating business. You're the CEO, as I say, of the Great Pitch Company, and a business that helps agencies go through the pitch process. But can you maybe tell us a little bit more about what you do in your own words, please?
Absolutely, yes. Essentially, we help agencies to win more new business, and we drive down wasted resources and inefficiencies in the business development process. We've got two offerings largely. One we call Great Now, which is all about helping agencies like those within Mission Group to win pitches or re-pitches that they're on to help them convert them. So we use our 30 years of working in the business, overseeing hundreds of pitches to really help you stack the odds in your favor so that you win. That's Great Now. And the other area we have is called Great Forever. And that basically, again, that actually has two services. One is where we'll come in and we do an audit of your business. Often we get, questions like, we keep coming second, or we have a prospecting plan, but we never make it happen. How can you help us make it happen? So we come in and we do an audit of a business and we look to align three things: your new business culture, your people, and your approach, because we find when those are aligned properly, that's when you can start to see the both effectiveness of your business development machine and your effectiveness and efficiency go up. So that's the audit, the consultancy side of Great Forever. And the other thing we do is training. So we do bespoke training programs for all sorts of agencies, always though with a focus on business development and winning more.
I love the way you split that up and sort of like for now and forever process. It's
Yeah.
it's a beautiful piece of branding. You should
There
get a
we
job
go.
in the sector.
Yes, it does. When you have a company called the Great Pitch Company, the onus is on us in order to make sure we can pitch our services well. That's for sure. You feel the heat under around your collar as you stand up in front of people.
I was going to say you've set the bar quite high there,
Yeah.
but I mean there are a number of people doing this, and I mean, my background, I've had a little dalliance in the space. But what's your background? How did you get into this? What makes you qualified to tell agencies how they should be pitching, I guess?
Well, so I've had a almost 30-year career, as I say, in the communications industry. Before that, I spent a year working in a theatre immediately after university, doing PR and marketing, and then I went to work
Wow.
for Kellogg's in their sales force. And that combination of theatre and sales has always served me well in my career. So I started as an account handler at Saatchi and Saatchi in London and worked my way up being through the account handling side. And then I got made new business director for the London office, which was quite a leap at the time, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was that combination of theatrical sales and knowing the business well. And so I've spent all my career either in business development roles or in account roles. So I moved to WPP, spent 13 years there, including running a 50 people strong agency in Geneva, Switzerland.
Wow.
We had, it was a multidiscipline, so we had all the different brands that were under Young and Rubicam Group as it was then. So we had PR, branding, healthcare, media, advertising, digital, not only co-located, but reporting to the same P&L and reporting to me. So that was great, that cross-discipline experience and running an office of 50 people, the size of many of your members probably. So
Yeah.
I really get that both sides of the equation, being a business development person and being the CEO of an office. And when that finished, I moved back to the UK and I worked for Publicis Group for 5 years as a global growth officer across their 6 media brands. And then in 2019, I got the chance to set up the Great Pitch Company, and I unleashed my inner entrepreneur, and I've loved it ever since.
Wow, that's quite a CV, and I think you've answered the question. It's a big tick. Yes, you have the experience to be able to do this, and 50 people is a quite a sizable agency in Switzerland.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but it's of course this business it's not just you. You've got an amazing team, as I understand, that works with you. Can you tell us a little bit about them as well, please?
Yes, a great team. Sorry, excuse the pun. Based in London. I'm in Geneva, and we have people in Milan. And although we're based in these cities, we travel all around the world, and we have worked with clients in North America, Middle East, Africa, Asia, wherever is required, and of course the UK as well. Many of these are people that I've worked with previously. So, for example, Louise Jackson, who's one of our lead consultants, who's based in Milan. She and I worked together when we were at Publicis Media, and she moved to Milan to run business development for the whole of Publicis Group. And then when that came to an end, they asked her to move back to the UK, and she said, "No, I want to stay in Milan." And so we found the chance to work together. So we have these network of people all around the world, highly trusted individuals, super experienced at business development, and help agencies to win more.
So in truth, a truly global offer then in all respects.
It is definitely a global offer, yes. So wherever is required. So we do a lot of travel on planes. What's great is we get to see a whole variety of different agencies. We work obviously with independent agencies. We work with the holding companies. We work for their networks. We work for individual offices of their networks, and that breadth of type of agency and in different parts of the world is excellent for really understanding the totality of the business development world. And we see the very best practices we might see it in the Middle East, and we bring it back and we help spread best practice, obviously in a highly confidential way, where we can.
Okay, well, it would be remiss of me then to have you on this call and not pick your brains on a few things for people watching. So, accepting that no two pitches are ever the same, what are the what's the biggest, I guess, mistake that you see that agencies commonly make that you might be able to sort of share with us as a watch out?
I mean, all too often people just assume that answering the brief brilliantly is going to win you the business, and that just isn't the case. The softer side of pitching is so important. We often talk about we've spent a lot of time trying to understand how human beings make decisions, and including obviously in pitch scenarios. And some of you will be familiar with Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow. And he talks about how the brain has 2 systems. He calls them System 1 and System 2. System 1 is your unconscious brain that processes a gazillion things a second, is much more powerful than we ever give it credit for, because it's unconscious. We don't know it's really there, but it's busy chugging away making decisions. And often it makes decisions, sends a signal up to your System 2 brain, which is your conscious brain, the one we hear talking to us. And it then pretends it's made the decision and will then try to post-rationalize things. So having an understanding of how important your System 1 brain is, the unconscious brain, when you're evaluating things, is really important. And so we put great store in that when we work with agencies, to make sure that of course, you've got to have brilliant strategy, a brilliant response to the brief, but thinking in a much broader way about how we're going to appeal to the client's system one part of the brain as well. So things like how you're communicating outside of the pitch process, precisely how you treat the client as they come to your agency and your offices, or if it's online, how you're going to overcome the barrier that this little camera can create.
It's fascinating because the depth of, as you say, is so much more than just, oh, we've brilliantly answered the brief and here's some amazing creative that we've come up with. And it goes beyond the theatre as well into the psychology of the sales and pitch process.
Absolutely. Yes.
Wonderful. I mean, I guess the counter to that question would be, what is there an instance, or is there something that you've seen in your career, and feel free not to name names, obviously, that you think, blimey, that is really smart?
Well, yes, absolutely. I mean, I guess one of the first ones that comes to mind is a repitch scenario where an agency had a client for a very long period of time, and was keen, had managed to avoid there being repitches by putting all the arguments to procurement and the management team that there shouldn't be one. But they knew it was going to come at some point. And so what they did was they hired a management consultancy to do an audit of their business and the client's business, looking at what the agency of the future would be that's best suited for this particular client's business. And the two co-funded it, and they did this like a year and a half before the pitch. And so, it took 6 months or whatever for the audit to be done and the results to come in, and then they implemented the results. And so 6 months before the repitch, they had reinvented themselves completely, and that's what we think. Repitching is all about reinvention, and that agency had done it in a super smart way. So that's one example. I mean, in terms of just general pitching, there's never one single smart thing. The thing about business development is that, all of us know that there are dozens of factors that can influence a client's decision making, and those factors are all interrelated but differently weighted for each pitch. And so you have to be great at all of them when you do a pitch. So that means doing fewer pitches and doing them at an extremely high level, so that you can influence as many of those factors as possible, and in turn that will improve your conversion rate. So the agencies that realize that, the ones that pitch less, will win more. So that's what we would recommend.
Yeah, and of course there's also the cost argument that goes alongside that, isn't there? With the average cost of a pitch these days being absolutely extraordinary. And I guess if the plan is to win more to get the payback on the investment that you make. But no, I also love the idea of that sort of forward investment and forward planning. I mean, that is a smart piece of thinking.
We've just been working in Italy with the trade association there, and we've just done a survey amongst their members that has identified the cost of the pitch in Italy, and I don't remember precisely the price, but it was around 43,000 euros per pitch. So, and the US have done the study, and the average cost of the pitch to US agencies is much higher at $250,000. That's largely because of the difference in staff costs in the US are so much higher. But, say it's £50,000, £75,000. Every one of those that you do that you don't lose is a huge impact upon your margin and your people. And so, one of the key things we talk to people about is their pitch to win conversion rate. We work with agencies, some of them have as low as 12%. We also work with agencies that have pitch to win conversion rates of 80%. Occasionally, some even get to 100%. So anything less than 50, you need, we can help. And that's what our aim is, to get to a point where you're pitching less, winning more. It's an upward spiral in terms of the agency spirit, the agency profitability, and that's how we can help.
And yeah, I mean, I think that that sort of 50% is an interesting measure. I mean, I've got friends who are, in the legal profession or whatever, and they think, the model that we go through as agency professionals to get new business is crackers. When they compare it to how they do it. But I was wondering, Marcus, from a client's point of view, and I've been in the industry a few years and been around the blocks, and as has this discussion. But do you think clients actually get what they require out of a pitch process, or is this sort of de facto process that has grown over time and no one's really thought of a better solution to make it work?
So I think it's true. No one's found a better way of doing it. And yes, I think again, depending on which country you're in, some markets are worse than others in terms of briefs having dozens of deliverables, ridiculous timeframes, lack of clarity in terms of the pitch objectives and briefs. So yes, I think there are many bad habits within the pitching process. One of the things that often surprises us is how compliant agencies are when clients ask them ridiculous questions. We encourage agencies to stand up for what they think is right and have an opinion and push back. And often that can be seen as not necessarily just being difficult, but actually helping clients to craft a better process. So we would encourage agencies to do that. I mean, the other thing is also to remember is often, certainly, having worked in new business all my life, I certainly saw the cost to the agency side. But it's worth remembering that, pitching is expensive for clients too. Indeed, the survey in the US found that pitching for clients was $400,000 versus the average for a pitch of $250,000 for an agency side. Now, it's slightly different in the US because they do pay consultants, intermediaries, to navigate more of their pitches. But nevertheless, the cost to agencies is very high. It should be a reason that we as an industry are saying to clients, look, don't put this out to pitch. Do it a different way, because it's going to cost you a huge amount of money to do so.
Yeah, and I think we forget that, because I think there's a sort of an approach within the agency world that, clients spend all their time, or at least a large percentage of their time, thinking about their agencies and their interaction with agencies. And of course, that really isn't the case. Clients have got day jobs, and agencies are just, they're part of that mix of people that help them achieve what they need to achieve within, let's be honest, these days, quite a limited time frame for your average CMO to be in tenure.
Absolutely.
Marcus, I guess it's obvious that you have a vast amount of experience in this, but from an agency's point of view, when's the best time for them to pick up the phone if they're retro inclined, or send you an email or whatever, a DM? When's the best time in the process for them to connect with you? Before, during, after, or does it really matter depending on what they want?
Well, generally speaking, sooner rather than later, because it's so. Say, for example, a large repitch or pitch lands on your desk, and you decide you do want to have some help to stack the odds in your favor to win. It's easier if we've had an initial conversation. Having said that, our teams respond to agencies calling up. They've got this brief, they've got to respond within a few days, a couple of weeks, and therefore we're used to just getting going remarkably quickly. But generally speaking, we'd encourage to look, let's have an initial meeting and get to know each other, talk about your business, understand about the challenges you might be facing, and we can take it from there. So an initial conversation is always worthwhile, sooner rather than later, I would say.
Okay, Marcus. So with all that in mind, you've actually very kindly put together a wonderful offer for our Mission Hub partner agencies. Could you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yes, sure. It came from our conversation that we had where, we'd be willing to do a health check, a 1 hour health check. Obviously, you can only get so far in an hour. but it would help us identify the areas of focus for if we were perhaps to work together. We essentially look at 3 areas. We start by understanding how good you are, surprisingly for someone in new business, but how good you are at retaining and growing your existing business. Because let's face it, no new client wants to join an agency that is losing all of its existing business. So we first look at your existing business and your ability, as I say, to retain and grow. The second area we look at is your marketing capability. So how good is your agency proposition? Is it clear? Is it compelling, differentiating, and relevant? And then how well is that communicated by your own team? So does everyone speak from the same hymn sheet? Is it known outside of the agency? And then we look at how good that proposition is brought to life across your paid, owned, and earned channels. The third area, sorry to interrupt, the third area we look at is your new business capability, the specific discipline of new business. And there we look at 5 areas. We look at your new business culture. So how good is your culture? Does it live beyond just the senior management doing stuff? Is it owned by the rest of the agency? How good are you at prospecting? Have you managed to turn it just from a plan into a month in, month out activity? How good are you at qualifying to pitch or not to pitch? An area that many agencies need help on. And then the fourth area within new business is how good are you at converting? So once you're on the pitch list, how good are you at converting? And then the fifth area within new business is how good are you at negotiating? So as procurement or the client are banging you over the head trying to extract more money out of you, are you able to hold your nerve? And we will look at all of those areas within an hour, and it gives us just a bit of a traffic light signal as to the areas that need most focus, and we'd be very willing to do that with your member agencies and get to know them. And then, if the opportunity is right, if it's something they want to proceed with, we're in a place to potentially work together.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for that offer on behalf of all the agencies and mission hubs. And there's an awful lot of very useful ground that you cover within that process. And as you say, if it traffic lights and there's a red light for a particular area and it helps save that pitch from going down the toilet, as it were, that's a really, really helpful thing to do. Marcus, this has been fascinating. Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure when we met in person, and it was great to speak with you again. And if our agencies want to reach out to you, we'll put your details on the end slide. It's okay, I presume, for them to come to you directly.
Absolutely. Very simple. It's marcus@thegreatpitchcompany.com, and would love to hear from people. And thank you very much for the opportunity. Lovely to have this opportunity to chat together.
My pleasure. And it's as it says, your business does what it says on the tin to steal someone else's strapline. Marcus, thank you so much. Absolute pleasure. Speak to you soon.
Thank you very much.